You're in church. How's everybody doing? All right, you can be seated. Hey, it is awesome to be able to be with you today. And what a joy. Is this thing on? Are we good? Can you hear it? Are we good? All right, there we are. All right, we're back. Hey, it is so awesome to be able to be with you guys today. How's everybody doing? Come on, one more time. Come on, one more time. Yeah. So awesome to be able to be with you today, and man, what a joy it is to be a part of this church. I've spoken here a couple times, and man, it is always a joy. It always feels like home to me, so really good to be able to be with you guys today. A little bit about me real quick. My name is Chris, and I'm the founding pastor of South Hills. We have a bunch of sites throughout California. I have written a bunch of books, blah, blah, but we've started Church Boom and a thing we call Church Rescue, where we rescue churches across America. How many know that sometimes we say America's not the same place it was 20 years ago? You can say now America's not the same place it was 2 years ago, right? It's like common sense has become a superpower. And it's just changed. And we decided to do something about it. We started 2 years ago, and wow, has God done awesome things. I will circle back to that idea at the end. But man, I'd love to jump right into the message as we kind of get going on it. And I want to talk to you, minister to you a little bit. And then I want to turn the corner at the end and talk about how every one of us today have the opportunity to come to the rescue for a church that is dying somewhere in America. It is an amazing ministry and is catching a lot of speed. And your pastor's a part of it. He coaches with us. He's an amazing pastor. And by the way, you do have amazing pastors. You do realize that, right? Incredible people. Love them so much. So if you got a Bible, in a moment, we'll go to 1 Samuel 17. If you don't have a Bible, next time at a hotel, get one. They're free. I steal them and then I sell them on eBay. It's a little side hustle I do. So a while back, I was really late for an appointment. I love being on time. I hate being late. And so I was really late for this appointment. So I'm going down the freeway and really late. And I got to go speak somewhere. And I'm flying down the freeway doing a nice, good Christian 95. And as I'm flying down the freeway, I am praying in my head, God, don't let me get caught. How many have ever been speeding or ran through a yellow light and said a quick prayer? Lord, as I break the law, may you be with me. So I'm flying down the freeway. I'm doing my, moving along really fast or whatever. And I'm like, man, this is not good, Then all of a sudden, I look in my mirror, and then I see red and blue lights. And I'm like, oh, dear God. Now I'm going to have to pay more money, and I'm going to be late. And so what do? I punched it. No, son, I'm flying down the freeway. I see the red lights. I'm like, oh, my goodness. So I pull over. The cop gets out of his car, starts walking towards me, and I see him in the mirror. And I look down, and there's a Bible sitting there. And I know that, this is bad, and I'm just going to be honest with you. And by the way, don't you love it when a pastor says, can I be honest with you? Because I'm always thinking, what have you been doing up to this point? But anyway, I take my Bible, and I know this is bad, and I put it on the dashboard. Is that horrible or what? Because I'm thinking, maybe he's one of us. And, so I put a little candle up there and a cup of tea, because it's got to look like a social media devotion. And then he comes walking up, and he's all, license and registration, please. So I give him my license and registration. He starts talking to me, blah, blah, blah. The entire time, he keeps looking at my Bible, and I'm thinking, I got him. He's not going to do anything, and he's like, I'll be back in a second. He goes back to his car. I see him writing a ticket. I'm thinking, what happened, dude? I thought you were one of us. And then he comes walking back up. Sign here, do this, give me license and registration back, all this stuff. And then he keeps looking at my Bible, and he goes, all right, well, drive safely. He walks away, leans his head back in the window, points at the Bible, and says, oh, by the way, read Romans 13:1. Now, I know a lot of the Bible. I have every verse memorized. He takes off. I open it up. Obey the laws of the land. Yeah, my luck, I had to get a Christian cop, and a nightmare. But what he was really saying was, hey, buddy, you might want to follow all of the Bible, not just part of the Bible. Another thing I think is interesting is I think it's really easy for us to follow part of the Bible, but not all of the Bible. Like we like the idea of being blessed. We're not sure if we like the idea of tithing or being generous. But they're connected. You want to be blessed. You got to be generous. Okay, we like one part. We don't like the other. The other thing I think is interesting is that we find it really easy to believe God's promises for other people than we do for ourselves. You ever thought about that? Oh, God will come through for you. God loves you. God's got a plan for you. You can trust God, and we're over there not doing any of that. Because it's so easy to trust God and believe God for other people than it is to believe ourselves. That's nothing new. Matter of fact, if you go back 3,000 years ago, you'll find a story in the Bible that happened in a valley in Israel. I've been there. It's an actual valley where they had the battle. And it's the story of David and Goliath. So let me walk you through the story real quick. On one side, we got the Philistines. They're the bad guys. Say bad guys. Okay, on the other side, you've got the army of Israel. They're the good guys. Say good guys. Okay, they're battling. Now, Goliath is part of the bad guys. He would come out every day and he would mock God. He would mock the people of Israel. He would mock the army. He would mock everybody. The people of Israel, the army of Israel, they were scared and they wouldn't want to go out in the battlefield. Okay, now, up a few miles away in the mountains, there is this guy named Jesse who's got a bunch of sons. Okay, now his sons, he comes to him and he says, okay, guys, you need to go and fight. We got to do our part. You got to go and fight. So they take off. The youngest son is about 17 years old. We know he was under 20 because he didn't take the consensus that year. So he was about 17 years old. He says, Dad, I'll go fight too. And his dad says, nope, you're too young. You can't go and fight. You don't know how to fight anyway. So he doesn't let him go fight. He says, instead of fighting like a warrior, you get to tend the sheep. How exciting is that? Demeaning, by the way. And then the dad comes along and goes, oh, by the way, a little bit later, like a month goes by, he says, here, son, here's a basket full of food. Deliver it to your brothers. So instead of fighting, he gets to be Little Red Riding Hood, and he gets to go over with a basket and give it to his brothers. He shows up on the scene. The people of the army of Israel, they're not fighting. The brothers aren't fighting. They're all scared. He shows up with his little basket of goodies, and this is where we pick up the story, and we find it in verse 24. As soon as the Israelite army saw him, they began to run away in fright. Have you seen the giant, the men asked? He comes out each day to defy Israel. He says, the king has offered a huge reward to anyone who kills him. David asks the soldiers standing nearby, what will a man get for killing the Philistines and ending this defiance of Israel? Who is this pagan Philistine anyway, that he's allowed to defy the armies of the living God? David comes along and says, what in the world is going on here? You guys are not fighting or anything. And here's the point I want you to get, and that is this, is that what others chose to accept, David chose to reject. Okay, watch this for a minute, because the army of Israel, if they don't win the battle, they become a slave. Here's what they're saying. We would rather not die and just become slaves. And David comes along and says, I reject that idea. I don't want to be a part of that. I want what God has for my life. You guys are accepting so much less. How often do we do that in our own life? Come on. Where we accept so much less in our life, where we're just, I guess I'll be a slave to that alcohol. I guess I'll be a slave to that addiction. I guess I won't have that great of a marriage. I guess this is the best my finances will get. This is the best our career is going to get. And we end up being like the army of Israel, where we accept so much less than God's best for our life. Why do we do that? We end up accepting so much less. And David's going, man, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. I fly a lot. I fly, I think last year I did 161 flights. I think this year I'll hit 200. And I do about 150 to 200 flights a year. So I fly a lot. And it was interesting because a few years ago, there's this thing called the Admiral Lounge. If you go to any big airport like Dallas, Texas or whatever, you'll see an Admiral Lounge. And that's a place, now check it out, it's a place you walk into for people that fly a lot. And it's got like restaurants and a sleeping area. It's got a masseuse. It's got a guacamole bar. It is heaven at the airport. It really is. And it's amazing. Now, I'm sitting there at the airport. My flight's delayed. A buddy comes by. I haven't seen him in a while. We give each other a hug. Hey, dude, I haven't seen you in forever. And he's like, yeah, dude, whatever. And so we give each other a hug. He goes, hey, let's go in the Admiral Lounge. This is a few years ago. And I'm like, dude, we can't go in the Admiral Lounge. I go, that's for pilots. Because doesn't it sound pilot-y? Admiral Lounge? And he's like, no, dude. He goes, you can go in the Admiral Lounge. What are you talking about? You can go in there. He goes, it's for us that fly a lot. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Now, I'm used to hanging out over here near the McDonald's with screaming kids and snot coming out of people's nose. It's like a petri dish over here. But inside it, then all of a sudden, I've never been in there. The doors open up and I walk in with my friend and I could hear the angels. Ah, it was incredible. There was a restaurant over there and a sleeping area. They got showers and all this stuff. And I'm like, what is this? The lady behind the counter goes, sir, what's your name? She takes his name. And who's your guest? I said, my name's Chris Sonksen. She goes, oh, Mr. Sonksen, you've been a member for 7 years. I've been a member for 7 years, and I didn't even know it. And I'm thinking in my mind, lady, you're telling me that for 7 years, I've been hanging out over here on this side, back of the bottom of the Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio, when I could have been out here with the lady with the necklace? Is that what you're telling me? For 7 years, I had the right to walk into that Admiral Lounge. You ever thought about that with the Lord? For 7 years, he's been saying, you can come into everything I have for you if you'll just do it. It's there for you. What do you want, man? What do you want for your business? What do you want for your life? What do you want for your marriage? What do you want for whatever? If you would just step into what I have for you, it's been there. Listen to me, folks. You've been a member for 7 years. You're just hanging out on the wrong side of the door. So David said, I reject that. I'm not going to be a part of that. Let's go back to the story. He said, I'm not going to do that. You guys are crazy. You guys are letting Goliath defy God and make fun of you. Forget it. The king overhears David, King Saul. Says, hey, David, come over here. And they have a conversation. Now, the 17-year-old kid and the king, who's the largest guy in the army, by the way, this is how that story goes with them. They have this little conversation. And I love the conversation. He comes to the 17-year-old David to the king, and here's how the conversation goes. Look at that. Don't worry about this Philistine, David told Saul. I'll go fight him. Can you imagine what the king is thinking? You little punk. You're 17 years old, you've never fought before, and then look what he says. Don't be ridiculous, Saul replied. There's no way you can fight the Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been a man of war since youth. I love David's response, but David persisted. I've been taking care of my father's sheep. Oh, well then, come on. I didn't know that. That changes everything. You're out there playing with the sheep. And he goes, I've been taking care of my father's sheep and goats, he said. When a lion or a bear comes and steals a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I've done this to both the lion and the bear, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine, talking about Goliath. For he has defied the army of the living God, and the Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from the Philistine. Here's the big lesson. You might want to write it down, take a picture of it, whatever. And then it's this, is that David knew this, that the battle belonged to the Lord, but that the fight belonged to him. That's what we need to understand. What did David say? I fought the bear, I fought the lion, I ripped their jaw apart. And he says, but it's the Lord that rescued me. And then later on in a couple more verses, he'll say the battle belongs to him anyway. David understood something. He said, look, the battle belongs to the Lord. There's no doubt God's in charge, but the fight belongs to you and I. We're the ones that got to fight. And what does that mean for you and I today? You're the one that's going to have to fight for your marriage. What does fighting look like? It might be not fighting like, well, yeah, we did one last night. No, I'm talking about that. Oh, man, where were you? You got a video? Some of the ladies are going, I took them out. Your fighting might be that you got to go to counseling. Your fighting might be that you're not making the money you want to make and you want a different career. You got to go back to school and you're going to have to fight. Your fighting might be that you're going to have to get into some sort of rehabilitation program because there's an addiction. Your fighting might be, I don't know what it would be, but I'll tell you this much, the battle belongs to the Lord and God's going to help you, but you got to fight. You got to fight. You got to get in there and fight for it. That's what we're doing with Church Rescue. We're fighting for local churches. The battle belongs to the Lord, but the fight belongs to us. I remember a few years back, about 4 years ago, we did a triathlon with me and some of the staff. And triathlon, I live right near the ocean in Southern California in Orange County. And we did this triathlon at Camp Pendleton, where you do like a mile swim in the ocean, 25 miles riding the bike, 5 miles running or something like that. And it was crazy. And I'm telling you, I will never do it again. It is so ungodly. I did it 4 years ago and I just finished last night. It it took forever. And, but anyway, I'm standing out there. I got to do a mile swimming. Now, I live at the ocean, and you want the waves not to break out too far, because if they break out too far, you'll go down, and you'll go down 10, 15, 20 feet, not hit the sand and be able to come back up. You need the sand to bounce back up, but if they set way out there, that morning they were huge at 6 in the morning and they were setting way out there. And I was thinking, this is not good. So our heat's ready to go. My group of 50 guys, and some of the other pastors were in different heats that were on my team. And our group of 50 is ready to go. And they're like, 60 seconds. The guy's got the little gun, and we're standing there at the ocean. I'm looking at it. The guy next to me is like, hey, man, you've ever done this before? I go, I've never done a triathlon in my life. The guy next to me, I go, what about you, man? You ever done one of these? He goes, oh, I've done 3 this year alone. He goes, I've never seen waves like that. I'm like, well, that's encouraging. And so I swim out there a half mile, swim back. I'm in the middle of all the waves. Jet skis are pulling the people out. Even the guy standing next to me got pulled out because they were drowning. All the jet skis, I looked up and I thought, here comes the waves. I'm in the middle of it. All the jet skis are gone. They're pulling away one more guy. And I'm yelling out, God needs me more than he does you. Help. And I'm yelling out whatever I got to yell out to get help. And I am just paddling, and honest to God, man, I was scared. I was like, this is not good. I was out of breath, and I'm paddling, and I'm praying, and I'm paddling, and I'm praying. But I got to tell you this much. I prayed, and I paddled, I prayed, and I paddled, and I never stopped doing either one of them. I didn't keep paddling and going, you know what? I'm just going to pray and see what God does. I prayed, and I paddled. Because part of that belongs to the Lord, and part of that belongs to me. I gotta pray, and I have to paddle. And that's the same thing David is saying here. I fought the lion, I did all that, but the battle belongs to the Lord. Here's a couple of quick thoughts for you that won't come up on the screen, and that is this. We often think that Goliath was David's greatest battle, but actually Goliath was David's greatest blessing. You see, because once he defeated Goliath, which he does, it's not a spoiler alert or anything, he does. He defeats Goliath. You know what he gets? He gets the daughter of the king as his wife. He gets his family and him never have to pay taxes for the rest of their life. That's enough right there. Then he got in modern times, he got $750 million as a reward. See, here's the thing. We look and go, oh, man, Goliath was David's greatest battle. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was David's greatest blessing. But because behind that giant lied a reward that God had for him, and he does the same thing for you and I. I don't know what giant you're facing. I don't know what you're up against. I don't know what personal battles are going on. But if you'll get in the fight and you'll start battling it, that giant will go down, and the reward is behind it. I promise you. It is. The other thing is this, is we always sing in Sunday school, little kids will sing it, you know, whatever, that God sent David to kill Goliath. There's even a little song, God sent David to kill Goliath. You ever thought about this? Maybe God didn't send David to kill Goliath, but that God sent Goliath to reveal David? Thought about that? What did it reveal about David? Because he was going to become the second king. He was strong. He was a warrior. He had faith in God. It revealed something about him. Let me tell you something. Crisis not only, your character is not only made in crisis, it's displayed in crisis. Who you are, what you are, how you shine. I don't know what battle you're facing or what you're going through, but I can tell you this much. That battle, just like Goliath revealed David, it will reveal you. It'll reveal the kind of person you really are and the fight that you're really willing to do. Let's go back to the story. We go back to the story. He tells the king, I can fight. I took care of sheep. Don't worry about it. I can do this. And so there's this little thing going on, and the king goes, okay, fine. He gives him some armor and says, go out there and fight. David goes, I can't handle this armor. He has a little slingshot. It's not like a normal one, but we'll just go with that for now. Too long to explain it. But he had a slingshot. And he walks over to the stream and picks up 5 rock stones, puts them in his shepherd's bag. And then he heads out to the battlefield with a slingshot and 5 rocks. Can you imagine what Goliath is thinking? All the people on the sideline like, this is it for David, you know. He's done. You know, let dad know he's going to die. And look what happens in this story. We pick it up where we left off. David replied to the Philistine, that's Goliath. You come to me with a sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies. He's standing there with a slingshot and 5 stones. The God of armies of Israel whom you've defied. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut off your head, and then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the bird and wild animals. This is the first episode of The Walking Dead. If you want to know where it was birthed from, it's right here. And the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel, and everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, but not with the sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle. Oh, there it is again. And he will give you to us. And Goliath moved to attack. David quickly ran out to meet him, reaching into his shepherd's bag. Remember that shepherd's bag? Took out one of those stones. There was 5 of them. He hurled it, a sling, and hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell to the ground and ultimately died. Now, here's the third thing that I just want to point out to you, and we'll turn the corner here. And that is this. When others stood on the sideline, David stood on the front line. You see, they both served the same God. Think about that for a moment. David and his brothers. But his brothers stood on the sideline. David stood on the front line. They both served the same God, but the army of Israel stood on the sideline. David stood on the front line. They both served the same God. The king stood on the sideline, but David stood on the front line. You ever look at other people and go, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could be that. I wish I could climb to there. Why doesn't God? Why didn't that? You ever just thought for a moment that it's not really about God? It's just the fact that you're standing on the sideline when others are standing on the front line? That's all it really comes down to. Get out there and fight and do what God tells you to do and watch what God does. He will do enormous, incredible things. You see, here's one more thing I want to show you is that David hurled the stone and hit him in the head. But you ever thought about that? Listen, this is important. We often focus on the bag. Oh, David took a rock out and killed him. We focus on the bag and we ignore the basket. Think about this for a moment. The bag was the stones where he threw it. The basket was there to serve. Listen to me. When he came down to the mountain and met up with his brothers, he didn't come there to fight. He came there to serve. It was the basket that got him the reward. It was the basket that got him all that money. It was the basket that got him the wife and the taxes and all that. It was the basket that did all of that for him. He didn't come down to fight. He came down to serve. It was the basket that led to the blessing. And it'll be the same thing with you. When God, I put you first, I serve you, whatever you want me to do, God, I'm all in with you, with the church. God, I'm all in. You start with that, watch what God does. Start with that and watch what God does. The basket leads to the blessing. It will for you. Now, Pastor Mike mentioned that we have this thing that we do. Church Boom, it's an organization where we coach pastors and rescue churches. But I want to talk to you just for a minute about rescuing churches. Because here's the thing, we all have a battle, and I want to encourage you to fight that battle. Don't stand on the sideline, get on the front line, fight it. The battle belongs to the Lord, but the fight belongs to you. Whatever you're going through, you fight. But there is something that we are all going through here today as citizens of America. Here's the things that we're going through. We have a problem in the local church, and we're getting together with Pastor Mike and many other pastors across the nation that are fighting for the local church. We're realizing how much trouble there is. Do you know that, let me show you just real quick. If you Googled this, just go to it real fast. Just real quick, we're going to fly through these. If you Googled America Church dying, here's the articles you would find. The America Church is dying, Milwaukee Independent. Top left, church going in belief in God stand at a historic low. Top right, America Church is closing faster than new ones can open. It's Fox News. ABC says church is closing their doors in record numbers. Washington Post says church membership has fallen below the majority for the first time in nearly a century. Folks, I don't know if you realize this, but America is closing 100 to 200 churches per week. And how many know that when we close more doors, America gets more darker? We got to fight for these churches, folks. These churches are 20 or 30 that are shutting down their door. When they disappear, you lose that spiritual sense. Matter of fact, go to the next one. We've been watching this since 2000. The average church in America was 137 people. 2020, the average church in America is 65 people. And it just continues to drop. And we want to do something about that. We want to do something about it. So I got together with some pastors just 2 years ago. 2 years ago this last month. And I just said, hey, what can we do, man? We coach churches, but they pay for that. But what could we do for free? And so we came up with this idea. What if we like give churches and pastors that are dying their churches, what if we give them free coaching for a year? Pastor Mike does some of the coaching for some of these great pastors. He had one this week, a call. They do a Zoom call where 5, 6, 7, 8 pastors get on there. And then what if we give them a free retreat for 4 days, like in the Rocky Mountains, and we pay for that? And then what if they need some help with their behind in mortgage, and we pay for that? And then we're like, that sounds great. Where are we going to get the money? I'm like, I don't know. And Anybody got any Bitcoin? No, I'm showing. So I'm like, where are we going to get the money? So we're like, well, what if we just get churches that are healthy to help the unhealthy? That seems godly. That seems right. And if everybody just did something, it would equate to a lot. So we just thought, man, what if we just did that? So we started 2 years ago, raising money to help rescue churches. We've bumped up over 600 churches. Right now, this month, I think there was 147 English-speaking churches and 67 Spanish-speaking churches that are getting free coaching, free help, free resources because churches like us are reaching out to them. Here's the result, real quick. Just real quick, I'll show you this one right here. Here's Alejandro from San Antonio. He calls us up, man, I got 30, 40 people left in my church. I don't know what to do. We put him into the program. His church last week had 225 people. That's a rescued church. Here's another one real quick. My buddy Joel in New Mexico calls us up, man, I got about 45 people left in my church. We're in debt. We don't know what to do. Okay, one thing led to another. Last week they had 355 people in their church. That's a rescued church. Here's another one real quick. My buddy Charles in Arizona, he calls us up only 6-7 months ago. I've got a handful of people left. We might close the door. We're not sure. All this stuff. We started working with him. Last week he had 155 people in his church. That's a rescued church. Come on, that's a rescued church. That's a picture right there. Leave that picture there. That's a picture of a guy that called us, one of the first guys we ever rescued in Evansville, Indiana. He called us up. He's like, I got 20 people left in my church. I feel like a failure. I think we're just going to close the doors. I heard about you guys. What can you do? That was 20 people 2 years ago. That's Easter morning right there. Look at all those lives. I spoke there 3 weeks ago. There was 360 people there. That's what they're averaging on Sunday morning now. There are so many changed lives. Pastor Mike, I had a guy come up to me at that church, gave me a hug, crying, kind of a rough-looking guy. He goes, I gave my life to Christ here. My marriage is back together, and I got baptized. He goes, it wouldn't have happened if you didn't rescue this church. If you didn't rescue this church, I wouldn't be here. That's why we do it. Because rescued churches rescue people. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to get your phone out real quick. Get your phone out real quick. Okay, in a moment, don't do the QR. No. We're going to do a video. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to show you this quick little video. Matter of fact, I think we're running out of time, so I want to go right into it. And so let's. There was a video I wanted to show you, but I think we need. I want to be cautious of the time. I hate being late. Remember that with the police, and I got pulled over, and the ticket was $1,000. We're going to take an offering right now. No, son. But I want you to get your camera out, and I'm asking for your help today. Everybody's help today, and Pastor Mike will walk you through it. Go ahead and get your camera out and take the picture of that. Come on, everybody, just grab that. Number one. You don't have to pay for anything. You just give your name, and then it'll ask for your email, and that's it. Now, from there, it's going to ask you, do you want to support a church? $10 a month, $20 a month. That regular money helps us be able to pay these things. I'm not asking everybody to do something big. I'm asking everybody to do something. Just something. Everybody do something. And so grab that right now. And it'll ask for your debit card. It's all secure, whatever. You can say, I want to do $10, $20 a month. If you have Apple, it'll upload all your information immediately anyway. Do that. And if it takes until you got to sit there for a minute when the service is over to get all the information, do that. Don't wait till you get home because we all know what's going to happen. And on your way out, Pastor Sabrina will be out there and I'll be out there as well. We want to give you one of these bracelets that says, I came to the rescue. And if you don't want to do the QR code or whatever, I hope that you do. I hope everybody does, free book and everything. Let's help out some churches. You can also give an offering by stopping by there. Pastor Mike will direct you how to do that as well. Thank you in advance for coming to the rescue for churches. Rescue churches, rescue people. And rescued churches will rescue America. But it's going to take all of us. The battle belongs to the Lord, but the fight belongs to us. Let's do that. Come on.
Thank you, Pastor Chris.